This is an absolutely standard example of appreciation, depreciation. The idea behind appreciation and depreciation questions in National 5 is that they increase by the same amount year on year. And that year on year thing is really important because it means at the end of the first year, you're going to have to recalculate that increase. And at the second year, the same thing. You're going to have to recalculate the increase because you're going to have more money that you've got 2% interest on or increased value on. So we've got the long method and we've got the short method. As ever, I'm not going to tell you which method is better for you to use. This is your decision. This is your decision based upon whether you'd rather have a slower method and you understand it down to a T, or whether you'd want the slightly shorter method, which perhaps takes a little bit longer for you to fully understand. The long method is as so. It begins the same way as reverse percentages. If you start with 100% and you increase by 2%, what percentage are you going to have by the end of that first year? You're going to have 102%. And what we need to do is turn that into the decimal. So we divide by 100 to do that. So we divide by 100 to turn that percentage into a decimal. So in 2016, it was 100,000. 2017 is going to be 100,000 times that decimal, because that will give us 102% of what we had. So we type that into your calculator, 100,000 times 1.02, and that gives us 102,000. So what were we in 2018? Well, again, we're going to be multiplying by 102%, 1.02 as a decimal. But our property wasn't worth 100,000 at the end of 2017. It was worth 102,000. So we do 102,000 times 1.2. And that gives us a value of 104,040 £40. And then we're wondering what it was in 2019. And again, we're increasing by 2%, but we're not increasing that 102,000 by 2%. You're increasing the £104 by 2%. Into the calculator, and out comes 106,120 £120, 80 pence. Remember, it's money, so we have two decimal places there. And we've got one more to do, so we can find out the value of the property in 2020. The value of the property in 2020 is going to be 106,120.80 times 1.02 equals 108,243.216. Now we're dealing with money, so we have to leave it to two decimal places. So you're going to round that to 108,243 and 22 pence. So that's the long method. And the thing is, as you can see, it's sufficient maybe if you're doing it for 2 or 3 years. But when you start doing it for 5 years, it takes a really long time. So we're going to have a quick look at the short method. And the short method relies on the fact that when you look at what we're doing each time, we're just multiplying our previous answer by 1.02. And this means what we've actually done in this question is done 100,000 times 1.02 to get 2017 times 1.02 to get 2018, times 1.02 to get 2019, times 1.02, I can squeeze it in there, to get 2020. So we've repeatedly just multiplied by 1.02. And the short method relies on this fact. And what we have instead is a power. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the power of 4. So this is how we find out quickly how much our house is valued at 4 years later. And you would get the same answer out of 18243.212, and then you would round it. 108,243.2. Where do your marks come from in this question? Bearing in mind, I'm just going to highlight it, this bit highlighted in purple is allowed to happen in your brain, okay? That's just the reason that the short method works. The first mark comes from that decimal, and you can show that in your calculation, or you can show it separately at the start. I would recommend doing it separately at the start, leads to less confusion. The second mark comes from your method. So in the long example, it comes from demonstrating this section here. In the short version, it comes from this line here. That's where you get your second mark. Setting up that calculation, choosing the correct power, which in this case is 4. And your third mark comes from the correct answer, rounded. Percentages questions are what maths teachers call a gift, especially when you're using the short method, because all you are having to do are those 3 lines of working, and it's 3 marks in the back.